This is Win News.
Tonight, the ACT budget, fresh spending but significant cuts to directorates. How the budget will impact Canberra households. And life without his wife, a husband's heartache, detailed in court. Good evening, I'm Danielle Post. In a moment, we'll bring you a full breakdown of the ACT budget. But first, in breaking news, a section of Eastern Valley Way at Belconnen has been closed because of fears it could be unstable. The Treasurer has labelled his second budget a plan for the future, admitting it's tough but necessary. There is modest spending for new initiatives, around $130 million over 4 years. For a more detailed overview, here's ACT political reporter Gemma Coombe.
The Treasurer has called this a budget for a rainy day. In a nutshell, he's saving more than he's spending. Health will receive $1.3 billion, education $900 million, infrastructure $1.2 billion over 4 years, and police and emergency services $275 million. As expected and reported before today, the deficit sits at $340 million, dropping next year to $253 million, and the year after that, the government hopes to be just $99 million in the red. Andrew Barr is still hopeful of returning to surplus by 2015-16. It will only be modest, around $29 million.
In this budget, we've laid out the path consistent with the budget plan that we've had in place for a number of years. And what we've been very clear about is that we're not seeking a surplus for the sake of it.
Taxes will rise by 10% for the average Canberra household. That includes a rise of around $140 per year in general rates. Some government programs have been scrapped, helping save around $6 million. The other $135 million in savings will come from across the directorates. Many will be reviewed to ensure efficiency. Other bad news: unemployment will rise and Commonwealth investment will drop. Andrew Barr says infrastructure spending will slow over the next couple of years, eventually ramping back up to deliver major projects like light rail. Transport, according to the Treasurer, is one of the government's key priorities this term.
This budget is about vision, priorities and transforming the city of Canberra. It's one that sets up our city for an exciting second century.
The ACT government's nation-leading tax reform revealed in last year's budget continues. Reforms the government claims will make taxes fairer, simpler and more efficient in the long run.
And despite the tough outlook, the government says it needs to keep spending to stimulate the ACT's economy. Here's a breakdown of where the budget money is going.
Revenue is down, savings are up, but there's still plenty of spending. The largest for health, $45 million of the $1.3 billion has been allocated for 31 new inpatient beds at Canberra and Calvary hospitals. $40 million will be spent upgrading TCH, mostly the emergency department.
As always, the budget has received mixed reviews. The public sector union is outraged, claiming it's a document full of sweeping assertions with little detail. And WIN's Luke Dufficy sat down with the Treasurer for more details on ACT public service job movements.
Andrew Barr, thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
Firstly, this budget has a pretty gloomy prediction for the ACT. Just how concerned are you about the next few years?
Look, we've got a couple of difficult years ahead of us, but I think the longer term prospects for Canberra are really bright. But we do have to weather a storm that is coming.
You say overall public service numbers won't drop, but there are some directorates which are losing dozens of staff. How will this affect the directorates and also the staff members themselves?
Well, there's a little bit of movement across the ACT Public Service as we're employing more staff in particular projects. So the Capital Metro light rail project will start to gear up, and so there'll be more employment there. So some staff who were working on that project in other directorates will move into the new agency.
Finally, you've announced $20 million for the Capital Metro and for the City to Lake, but at this stage it's all just planning and design. There's not a single piece of actual infrastructure. When's the work going to start on the ground?
These are the biggest infrastructure projects in the Territory's history, so they need time to be planned and developed. The time frame for construction is 2016 for those projects, and what we've done in this budget is create the financial capacity to make those investments in the second half of this decade. So this is the first of 4 budgets in this parliamentary term, and it's focused on delivering key services and making room in our budget in the future to invest in these key infrastructure projects.
Andrew Barr, thanks for your time.
Terrific, thank you.
Luke Dufficy there, and that is where we leave our budget coverage for the ACT.
This has been a Win News presentation from Win Television, Australia's largest commercial television network.